Then, few years later, 2010, Gatluak was invited to speak for Sudanese community in Greater Minnesota. Gatluak gave every one of us the greatest speech I ever heard about refugees' life in the United States. And you know what I thought? I say, I'm gonna connect even better with this boy because he has the tricks. I call him, and his same smile is there, and I ask him for how did you manage to get a bachelor degree and master degree for a short period of time? I'm here struggling to try to get my master degree in medicine. Do you have a trick? Oh, he just say, I know, he just pressed me, you are a great guy, you can do it, you have done this. And I'm like, dude, tell me your secret. He didn't. But I was watching him. 5 months later, I didn't know that he started his PhD. I met him in one of his uncle's home. Banak, are you there? That gentleman lived in Lincoln, Nebraska. That's how Sudanese are connected. I went to his house. Gatluak went to that guy's house. He wake up at 6 in the morning. I was with my wife. He was with his wife. He wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning. Went to the basement. Didn't see him all day. The evening time I came and I tried to find him. Where's Gatluak? I thought he went to community. He was down the stair. Then I went and asked him, what are you doing? He said, oh man, I'm just doing my homework. What are you doing? I'm doing my PhD. What? You are again picking up another degree? And I say, I must do something myself. To be honest with you, there is a miracle in this boy. I'm very confident about it. What he had done for this short period of time is nothing short of miracle. Give him a hand. For any Sudanese person that say that he cannot make it in this country, I would tell you, ask Gatluak. He has a secret. Don't hate him. Make him your friend. Let him lead our community. Gatluak Tetai, I'm so humble to introduce you as Dr. Gatluak Tetai, my friend. Another thing that I almost forget, among the greatest Nasser community, because Nasser used to be the greatest Nasser, and then there was split between Wulang and what we call the Nasser County right now back home. I believe he's our first PhD. We do have few master degree, we have few medical degree, but if there are more than one, I think he's the first one. What a great achievement. From nothing to be the first PhD, and you will be the first something tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Wherever you are in life, there are people who are recording those little steps that you make in life, and Dr. Gatbel, thanks for sharing. I wanted to acknowledge the president of the family here of Gat. His mother is here. Mama Mary, if you are here, please give her a hand if she's here with us. Please, we wanted to see. Now, this is the mother who made it possible for this young man from 9 months in the womb to where he is now as a man. And the rest of us join in. So thank you for being here. His lovely wife, or her better half, Miss Nakuma. She must be somewhere, since she is the commander of the evening, making sure that we are all happy and settled. So please give her a hand. And also their kids, siblings, uncles. We wanted to welcome you here, and we just wanted to acknowledge your presence. So thank you very much. Ms. Angie Harris, to introduce our keynote speaker for the evening. Please, ladies and gentlemen, let's give her a hand of applause. So.
Well, thank you so much for having me tonight, Gatluak, and all of your friends and your family. I'm just honored to be surrounded by such amazing, wonderful, loving people. Thank you so much, and congratulations to you, dear brother. Holly Johnson is our keynote speaker tonight, and she's another person that you wonder how does she do it all? She's a director, she's a wife, a mother of three, a leader, a mentor, a role model, a friend, and an athlete, and much, much more. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to introduce our keynote speaker, as well as one of my favorite people in Nashville tonight, Miss Holly Johnson.
Thank you, Angie, for that introduction. Angie and I are always debating over who's the other's biggest fan. So because I have the microphone last tonight, I can say without a doubt I am your biggest fan. So in typical Gat fashion, he asked me to talk about the experience of refugees who come to the US and not focus on him in particular. So that's where I'll start. A refugee is someone, and I realize that I'm preaching to the choir here because many of you know much more about this experience than me. A refugee is someone who's been forced to flee his or her country because of persecution, war, or violence. A refugee has a well-founded fear of persecution for reasons of race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership in a particular social group. A refugee cannot return home or is afraid to do so. It's estimated that 1 in every 250 people worldwide is a refugee. The US resettles less than 1% and is third worldwide in per capita refugee resettlement behind Canada and Australia, and only slightly ahead of Norway. More than half of all refugees spend more than 10 years in a refugee camp before being resettled. Some spend upwards of 30 years. Many are born in a camp and don't know life outside of that camp. As we've heard earlier, I think in the song actually, most refugees arrive with nothing but a small bag of belongings, and yet within 6 to 8 months are self-sufficient. They're working, the kids are in school, they're beginning to learn English, they're paying their own bills, they're off public assistance, they're beginning to find their way, build their lives, and learn what it means to be a new American. We take so much for granted in this country. I read a book in grad school called The Mountain People by Colin Turnbull. Turnbull is an anthropologist who wrote about the Ik tribe who live in the mountains of Uganda in Africa. The constant and very real struggle of the tribe is survival. At the age of 2, they turn their children out from their homes to fend for themselves. They laugh when babies crawl too close to the fire. They steal food from a dying man's mouth. It's what they do to survive. We half-heartedly talk about how lucky we are to be Americans, but I don't think we really stop and think about it. This book made me realize how truly, truly blessed we are. I had the privilege of being born in this great country. I could have been born anywhere. I mean, God could have placed me in the womb of any woman, a woman in the Ik tribe, a woman anywhere on this planet, and he gave me to a wonderful couple who lived in a Washington, D.C. suburb. How incredibly fortunate I've been. I had the privilege of a great education when so many long for that opportunity. My kids sometimes think it sounds pretty good to not have to go to school. They have no idea and take that for granted, the education that they receive. This education is what made Gat stand out among so many, including the native-born. He might be the first in his region of Sudan to earn his doctorate, but there's so few here in this country that do. According to last year's census, 1.68% of those 25 and older have earned a doctorate. 1.68%. That's amazing. If I was here celebrating this achievement for someone I grew up with, it would be a really big deal. But to celebrate this achievement for someone whose life was so very different from mine, for someone whose life could have easily taken a very different turn, whose outcome could have, maybe should have, been very different. This is huge. This is a big, big, big deal. So Gat wanted me as state refugee coordinator to share my work with you all and how it, quote, positively impacts refugees in Tennessee to rebuild their lives. He emphasized, and I quote from his email, "This is not about me. This is about refugee and immigrant children who thought there's no future or hope for any of them to make a difference in their lives. We want to create the image that one can come to America without knowledge of even the ABCs in English, yet can work harder and make reasonable decisions and can not only excel and achieve the highest educational goal in America, but can even impact the lives of others." So in true GAT form, he tried to relax me by telling me there'd be about 250 people here, including Representative Jason Powell, other elected officials, that the mayor might be here, not to mention many of my colleagues, friends, and family. So as you can imagine, this didn't relax me at all. So I thought maybe I should do something very simple so I wouldn't mess this up. So I got to thinking about those poems we write when we're children, where you have a word and you write it down the left-hand side of the page, and then the first letter is a word that relates to that main word. So I decided to do one of those. So here it goes. Gatluak. G-A-T-L-U-A-K. G is for generous. I'm careful what I ask of Gat because I know his generosity. When my daughter was a Girl Scout, I casually asked him if he wanted to buy some Girl Scout cookies, thinking maybe he'd buy a box to share with his kids. He gave me a donation equivalent to about a dozen boxes, but only wanted a few. I'm not even sure he was really familiar with Girl Scout cookies because he didn't know what to get. I had to tell him, "You're gonna want Thin Mints and Samoas." And I don't think he even ate them either. He probably took them to the office to share or to a community meeting for others to enjoy, or just gave them to someone who looked like they needed something to make their day a little better. I have an autographed copy of his book. I'd like to think maybe one of the very first ones, and I didn't even have to pay for it. When my office, the Tennessee Office for Refugees, first awarded a grant to NICE, Nashville International Center for Empowerment, GAT's organization, he wasn't even paying himself on a regular basis. He would forego his paycheck in favor of using that money to serve others. This is GAT, an incredibly generous man. I'm humbled by the generosity of people who have so little, and I don't mean that GAT has so little now, but he did. Most of you have probably by now seen the picture of him and his brother in the refugee camp, and you all probably know that GAT was a child soldier. This is not a man who came to the US with a lot of money, but was wealthy with the word for this might be flexible. GAT's very flexible. He goes with the flow. He has ideas and articulates, which could have also been my A, articulates his ideas well and then easily adjusts if the plan or others' ideas change. When we first started working with his office, he humbled himself to learn from our staff. He was not an expert in managing grants. Now, I don't mean there was any misuse of funds, quite the opposite actually, as I mentioned a minute ago. Running a nonprofit doesn't mean you're the boss of working for free, and we had to teach him this. He allowed our fiscal staff to work with his fiscal staff every single month, implementing what we suggested, documenting what needed to be documented, and setting up solid systems so that his organization could grow, and it has, exponentially. As an aside, have you all purchased your tickets for the fundraiser next week? It helps his organization do what they do, so if you've not already purchased tickets, see GAT afterwards. I'm sure he can hook you up. So anyway, back to my poem. T is for thoughtful. I don't mean thoughtful in a kind sense, because we'll get to that when we get to K at the end, but thoughtful in a he thinks about things sense. GAT's not one to dominate conversation or talk too much like yours truly. GAT is someone who listens to what's being said, both the spoken message and the underlying message, and then thoughtfully considers his response. When he finally speaks up, people listen.